Hello, this video will take you through creating a new loan app from MyCRM. There are three ways to create a new loan app. You can either click on the New button and choose New Loan Application from here. This will start you off with a blank loan application and you'll need to enter in all of the client details. If the client already exists, as in this case for John and Jane Smith, we can actually go into the client and go to the Lending tab and then click on New Loan Application. It's important to do this from the client if they are existing, because that will pull all of the information across. And lastly, if you've created an opportunity for that client, you can actually convert that opportunity to a loan application and then proceed from there. I'm going to go ahead and create a loan application from this existing client. So from John and Jane Smith, I can click on New Loan Application, and that will open up the loan application screen, and it will pull across all of the information that we know about these clients already. So you'll see John and Jane have automatically come through here. A couple of things at the top here. First of all, you have an allocated advisor. This comes through from the family. If it's different, you can click change and change to a different advisor. You also have important dates up here where you can add in expected settlement dates or finance dates or an auction date, for example. And then on the main screen here, you've got the sections for the loan app. So this is the core information about the customer. And then you've got any supporting documents that you're going to upload into here. And then we've got the loan submission information here about the lender that we're sending it to. So first of all, if we click on applicants, that will expand the applicants section, and you'll see any applicants that have automatically come through from the client record. We can remove somebody by clicking on the X, or we can add additional people by clicking on Add Individuals and searching for them in the client base. Or if you are creating a brand new person, you can click on New Individual, and this will then open up a screen to be able to enter in all of the information about that particular individual. You can also add a joint applicant here to connect them up as a family. It's important that you do that if they are husband and wife or in a relationship, so that they get connected in the database. You can add more than two individuals. You can add other people. So for example, if you've got brothers and sisters that are perhaps buying a property jointly, you could continue to add them in here, keep them as separate families. If you've got any companies or trusts, you can add those in here. Again, the same theory. You can click Add Borrower, click New Trust if you want to create a new trust entity, and insert all of that information in here. And then underneath that section, we've got the guarantor section. So from the guarantor section, again, you can add additional people to this application in much the same way, either existing contacts or creating a new person. And that will create another entity in this application for you to add information to, but as a guarantor. You'll notice as we go through these little show advisor notes sections here. So if you've got some information about someone, but you don't have enough to be able to enter them in at this stage, you could simply put the information that you know about them in here, and that way when you come back later to complete the application, you can go ahead and change that and update it from there. So this section, this advisor notes part, shows throughout the entire loan application, so you can fill in as much information as you like. Next section here is dependents. So again, if we've got any dependents in there, they'll come through. We can click Add Dependents to add additional dependents in, and it's just got a very quick box for you to enter that information in. And then under that, we've got employment income. So you click Add Employment, and that will bring up a box to enter all of the employment details. So first of all, we can choose the employment status. So it's primary, whether they're PAYE, self-employed, how long they've been employed for. So I can go for, say, 2 years or 2 months, roll. And then this section here is optional. If you've got the details for the employer, then go ahead and enter them. If you don't, you can leave that blank. Income details. So by default, it comes up with salary wages, but we can choose a different type of income if that's the case. Frequency of pay, and then we can put in an information about how much that is, and then how we're going to verify. If they've perhaps got another pay method, say a bonus, for example, you can click Add Another, and then choose that alternative income in there, and say they get a yearly bonus of $5,000. We can put that in, and then click Save Employment, and then we'll go ahead and save that employment in there. We can always delete it or edit it at a later stage. You'll notice here that you will get a note that most lenders require a 3-year history. and obviously the information that I've put in there is only 26 months, so that wouldn't be enough. Okay, so if we were adding in employment for Jane, we can do the same thing again. We just go add employment, and this time we change it from John to Jane and enter in all of the information for Jane, and that will show here. If we've got additional applicants, so say for example that we have a guarantor, I'm going to go ahead and add Bob in as a guarantor so that we can test this out. Normally you would fill in all of the information, but just for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to skip right ahead and just put Bob in there. So you'll notice what's changed here is you've now got a drop down. So this drop down allows you to toggle between families. So John and Jane are one family and Bob is his own family. So again, we can click on Bob and then we can add employment for Bob, and you'll see Bob's name there. So you'll need to go through and complete that. And again, this list could have as many people as you like, depending on how many people are involved in the loan application. The address history works in much the same way as the employment history. So to create an address history, first of all, select the family that you want to add it for. Again, this has automatically brought through some of the addresses that we had already. I can either edit these or add a new address by clicking Add New. You can type in the address. So for example, I'll type in 19 Beach Road. With this, if the address can't be found, you can use a manual entry to manually key the address. We choose an address type, so for example it might be a postal address, and then we choose the detail of a living arrangement if that's applicable. I can choose other. You can choose save and add another to add another straight away, or just save address to go ahead and put that in straight away. So a postal address won't ask you for the length of time, but a physical address will, and you can choose in here the number of years, number of months, etc. And then the last section in here is the related parties. So with solicitors, if we untick this option, we can add a solicitor. Either we can create a new solicitor or use an existing contact. I'll create a new solicitor by clicking new, and then you can choose who the advisor is here and put in the details of your solicitor in here and then add solicitor. Same thing with the accountant. And the next section we have here is customer objectives. So simply click customer objectives. That will close the applicants area and open the customer objectives section. There are only two sections that you have to complete in here. You must choose a primary purpose. So for this one, I'm going to go with a first home buyer. And then we can put in the specific goals and objectives, which will be transferred through as part of the loan application. And you'll see as soon as I've done that, this entire section is actually ready to go and completed, but I can enter more information in here if I want to. But again, this is optional and totally up to you if you want to complete it. The next section is financial position. So as previously, you'll notice this drop down here, so we can choose between John and Jane or Bob. And so this is the financial information that we're entering in for this particular person or for this particular person here. So you need to be very careful that you've got the right person selected before you go ahead and create any real estate assets, liabilities, income, expenses, etc. So let's just work through this one by one. First of all, we can add an existing real estate asset. So let's say that John and Jane own a property, so let's put that in here. Cool. So under here it defaults to a residential property, although we can change that if need be. If you've got an existing address that you've already entered in here, we can pull that through here, or you can enter the address in there. We can choose a primary purpose, so for example it's owner occupied. Standard residential, it could be something else, so we can change that here. And what is the value? So let's say we've got a certified valuation of 500,000. Now, if this property is going to be used as security in this loan application, we need to select used as security here. So I'm going to say yes here. If there's any rental income, we can add income here, and that will show you, that will allow you to enter any income details, or I can delete that if not, and any existing mortgages on this property. So I'm going to add an existing mortgage to this property. We're going to refinance it, and it's going to be with ANZ. That's 400,000. It's currently 400,000 balance. The repayments, we could enter in the details here, and the loan term, etc. When I click Save Asset here, that will create the asset here as an existing real estate asset, but also you'll notice it will create the mortgage liability down here, and most importantly, it will have this clear from loan section here, yes. So if we're doing a refinance, that will allow the security to come through as a funding item and to be cleared from the loan when we run through that section. So that is very important. If you've done that incorrectly, you can edit it and change the used as security to no, and remove the mortgage from that as well. So that's how you would update that. Next section to complete here is assets. So I'm going to click add assets, and that will bring up some options for us. We can choose a type of asset to add in here. If we choose items such as a boat, for example, it will come up with the drop down box and we can enter in the details for that boat. So I'm going to call this a boat, and that will go ahead and add the asset in here. You'll see the ownership for this asset is automatically set up as John, Jane, and also Bob. We can edit that to remove Bob from the ownership. So if we go into here, it should just be John and Jane, for example, and we don't want to include Bob in that, so that will remove Bob from the ownership. And we can go ahead and add other assets in here as well. So let's say, for example, term deposit, ASB, that's 20,000. And obviously you can keep going through and adding additional assets as you've got them. So next section is liabilities. So you'll see the mortgage has automatically come through here. We can add other liabilities in here as well. So for example, I'm going to choose a credit card, and we can choose the creditor. So let's say it's an ASB credit card, and the card is a Visa card. Now, the clearing from loan option, if we say yes to this, then it's going to go ahead and add in that credit card repayment, or sorry, the credit card balance as an amount to be repaid from the loan. So if I add that in here, then this will go ahead and add it when we complete our funding. So if you don't want to do that, then don't select yes on here. If you just want to keep the credit card as is and not repay it, then that's an option as well. So click Save Liability, and you'll see the credit card is in here. Again, you can edit the ownership for this credit card, and by default it will be for John and for Jane. You do need to answer this question. If the clients are guaranteeing a loan for any other persons, we just click yes on here, and then we can supply details. Great. And then we have the income section. So I already entered in some income for John and Jane, and in their contact record, that comes through here. I can edit or delete that here, or we can click add income to create a new income. So normally we would link it to an employment. So we've got John Smith's countdown employment there. I can link that through to there and add additional income in here. But the income that we already added previously has come through, so we can leave that there. We don't probably need to add anything. Living expenses, there's two ways to add living expenses. We can either click add expenses and add them one at a time, or you can use the expense grid. The expense grid is much faster, allows you to literally list through all of the expenses and add them in straight here. So we can choose, say, for example, $150 and fortnightly. Electricity is $250 and that's monthly. Gas is $50 and weekly, and so on and so forth. You can also adjust the ownership if it's not for both, but we'll leave it as joint for this one. When we click Save Expenses, that will go ahead and create all of those expenses for our families, and we can edit them individually here or go back to the expense grid to modify them all at the same time, and you'll see a total monthly amount here. Okay, so the next section is the loan funding details. If we click on the loan funding details section, you'll see here that we've already got a loan funding requirement. So this tab shows you any funding that you need, and it's listed out here. This one has actually come through from the previous section. So when we were calculating the financial position, you'll remember that we entered in this existing real estate asset, which we used as security, and we also added this mortgage, which we asked to clear from loan. So that's actually automatically come through to loan funding details. So you can see the existing lending, it's been allocated for refinancing. And also, if you'll remember, we added a credit card liability and we asked to clear that from the loan. So that's been added in here. You can add other fees in here. So for example, I might add in legal fees of $2,000, And when we add that in here, that updates us to a total of 412,000, and you'll see that updates in the total lending required here, and also at the top here, and you'll see the LVR change as we go through and add that in. So if we wanted to add a additional security, or if we didn't have this refinance here and we were starting with a blank security, so a new purchase for example, we just click on add property security, and this will pop up with a security box for us to go ahead and add in. Just be careful with the ownership. You'll see it's come through with the guarantor as well, and you might not want it, so we'll remove the guarantor here. Let's say it's a new purchase here. We can choose any of the options around the property type, the purpose, etc., but these are the defaults. We can enter an estimated price, so for example, let's say it's going to be 800,000 is the B on it, suburbs, so let's say it's in Auckland, and then if it's an investment property we can add rental income to it here. Click Save Security, and that will add the security in here as a new purchase, and you'll see now we're refinancing and doing a new purchase. So we could delete either of these if we decide we don't want to do it, but I'm going to combine the two together, and so we need a total funds of 400 plus 10 plus 2 plus 800, so 1.212 mil. We can then add funds available. So for example, if we've got a deposit available, I can click add funds and choose from these lists of items. So for example, if we have KiwiSaver withdrawal, we could add that in here. You can add as many different funds available as you like. So I might put a deposit paid into here, and you'll see the funds available will add in that additional amount. So 50,000, and the total lending required, I've chosen 1.162, and that gives me an LVR of 89% right here. And then I can choose a lender. So for this loan, I've decided I'm going to go with Westpac. So I'll choose Westpac, and we can choose right here the reason for that recommendation, lender, and product selection, and a reason for refinance as well. Okay, and at the bottom, last of all, we have the loan facilities. So by default, this will create us one loan with the full loan amount that was required. We can edit that and add additional loan facilities in if you prefer to specify what the splits will be and what the interest rates, etc. will be, or we can just leave that as one split there, and we are ready to proceed from here. And the next section we have here is insurance. This is a fairly brief section. The insurance just asks you whether the customer wishes to discuss risk insurance or not. We can say yes or no to that, and then why they haven't, and any details. And then general insurance, we can choose whether to refer it to Tower or whether they have arranged their own insurance, etc. And you'll see once we've provided that, we've got all of the information that we need for this section. So we've now completed all of the information in here. And the next section here is supporting documents. So the supporting documents section allows you to upload any documents that you might have. You can also add from docs. So add from docs will select any documents that have already been uploaded to the client's documents tab, and you can select those for inclusion here, or we can go ahead and upload files ourselves from our computer. Okay, so when we choose to upload documents, we can choose one file, or we can choose multiple files at the same time. And what that will do is it will upload both of those files straight away, and you can see that happening here, and that's going to place them in here for us to organize them. Okay, now here's our two files. So what we can do is you can either choose to categorize the entire file. So for example, if I know that one file is payslips, I can choose payslips and go ahead and name the entire file. Or if we click on this down arrow here, you can see each individual page. You can generate thumbnails for the page if you're not sure what the page looks like. We'll click on a particular page and it will generate a thumbnail for you to remind you what the page is. And then we can select the individual page from here. So for example, this first page might be a family trust deed. Second page is also a family trust deed. Then we've got an identification document and then another identification, etc. So you can individually select each of those and you can review the document from there. The other option here you've got as well is the ability to reorder the files. So for example, if this one should actually go at the top, we can move it to the top and that will sit there. You can also use this arrow to move them up and down. And again, as mentioned, you can choose the entire document to be categorized in a certain way. And we can also add notes to this document. If you've got a document that's coming, but it's not here yet, you can use the Forthcoming Document option. Forthcoming documents will appear at the top here, and we can choose, for example, a rental estimate, and that's going to be coming in next week. And also, if you need to download attachments, if for example you've shared this online fact find option to the client and they've uploaded documents, you can use download all attachments to download everything that's in here and reorganize them if you so wish. And we're now almost ready to submit our loan to the lender. Just a last couple of steps here for declarations. We need to confirm that the customer has been provided a copy of the disclosure statement and that they signed the declaration form. In the advisor notes section, you can add any notes to the lender that you want to carry through. So client background, character, recommendations, and additional info. Or you can fill in NA if you don't have any information for that, for example. And then the last one here is submit to lender. So this will automatically choose the lender based on the lender that I selected above. I can of course change it at this stage, but I'm happy with that selection. Would you like to generate a lender worksheet? So this allows you, if you say yes, the system will go ahead and generate the spreadsheet for the lender. If you've already completed your own or you prefer to edit it yourself, you can download it or edit it and then click no and upload that document here. So that allows you to attach your own worksheet there, or we can go yes and it will automatically generate it. So there's also a loan app PDF here which you can download and view if you want to review the PDF before it gets submitted. And then last of all, you've got two options for submission. The most common is normally to email it. So with email, it will automatically come up with the email address for that lender. You can edit and set a different default if you prefer. However, the lender default is normally the correct one that you want to be using. You can send a copy of the loan application to your client, and you can send a copy to yourself, and you can edit those if they're not correct. You can also mark the application as an urgent application, and you can edit the details of the email that's actually sent by clicking the little edit option, and this ensures that you can add a personal note to the client if you want, and add a personal note to the lender if you want as well. Otherwise, they will simply get the default information from there. And then when we're done, we simply hit submit to lender, and it will go ahead and send that application to the lender, and they will obviously confirm receipt of that application for you.